The Seattle Seahawks got their fourth win in a row as the Terminator, Zach Charbonnet, ran all over the Arizona Cardinals. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show. I'm your host, Mikey, and today we are here to talk about that Seattle Seahawks win over the Arizona Cardinals this last weekend, 30-18. And it truly was a dominating performance. Okay, yes, the Arizona Cardinals offensively they scored more points than they did a couple of games ago against us. But I feel like this game overall was a better game as a overall team performance from the Seahawks. It wasn't just the defense, the offense got it together in this game too. So they dominated in all phases of the game. Okay, I guess you wouldn't say they dominated in special teams, but at least special teams was not a disaster in this game. All right, let's the star of the game was Zach Charbonnet. So let's talk about that first. Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries, 134 yards. That's an average of 6.1 yards per carries, 2 touchdowns, had that long 51-yard touchdown. Oh, and by the way, 7 receptions for 59 yards, 8.4 yard average. As a receiver, he was your leading receiver in number of receptions. Okay, not yardage, but the number of receptions. So big day for Zach Charbonnet, right? Almost. Or yeah, that is right. Yeah, that's. Oh no, it's almost. Sorry, almost 200 yards from scrimmage total in this game. Okay, so yeah, big day for Zach Charbonnet. I mean, this is what I've been talking about since we drafted him. I mean, I've had to listen to the nonsense for years. People complaining that the Seahawks wasted a second-round pick on Zach Charbonnet because we already had Kenneth Walker III that we drafted in the second round the year before. This is exactly why you do that. And that was my motivation. That was one of my motivations for starting the mock drafts series that I did before this season, because I just wanted to show people like there's so many different ways drafts can go, and you typically you're trying to take the most talented player. And if you go back and look at the year Zach Charbonnet was drafted, tell me who you're drafting over Zach Charbonnet at the time of the draft. Okay, you can always go 3-4 years down the line and you find some 4th, 5th, 6th round player that becomes a Pro Bowl player. But you have to be honest, you have to be realistic about how players were looked at the time. And tell me who at the time had more talent than Zach Charbonnet at the point you drafted him. In my eyes, Zach Charbonnet could have been drafted a lot sooner than he was. I believe he was drafted the same year as Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Who both went, at the top of the first round. Zach Charbonnet could have been a first round pick. He would have been, he didn't have what those two have, so he would have been, end of first round. But he has that kind of talent. That's why you look at the talent of the player, and you don't just draft for a position, right? You don't take a guy at a position you need that might be, at best a backup on your team versus a guy that can do what Zach Charbonnet can do. And he has the potential to be starting caliber in the NFL. And we saw it in this game. Why did we see it in this game? One, the offensive line played one of its best games of the year. Two, Zach Charbonnet, he trusts what he sees in front of him. He uses his vision to take what's there and gain yards and wear defenses down. That is something that K9 does not do. He could improve on. And you could tell in this game, Zach Charbonnet was motivated because he knew he was getting the start. There are reports out there that K9 could be missing the next game as well. So Zach Charbonnet is going into this thinking he may have a couple of games in a row to play as the starter to show what he has. And he has seen how this coaching staff has treated players who come in and give a better performance than the star that was there before. No job is safe. Okay, we've seen that all year long with this coaching staff. So you could tell Charbonnet was motivated. He wants to show that he is starting worthy. And sounds like he might get another chance this weekend as well. But yeah, he definitely showed it. He was decisive in the cuts he made. He was decisive in hitting the holes, and he hit them hard. And when he ran through them, he ran through them with conviction. I believe it was 91 yards after contact that Zach Charbonnet had during this game, rushing. So a majority of his rushing yards, which again was 134, still, with that many, a majority of them came after contact. That's amazing. Kenny McIntosh, we will mention here as well. 7 carries for 38 yards. It was great to see him get a chance as well, because he's somebody I have liked since we drafted him when he was coming out of college. And you know what? Same thing with him. He was trusting the blocks in front of him, hitting the holes, taking what was there. And yeah, he looks good out there doing it. Now, I've seen so many people criticizing the Zach Charbonnet pick. All right, but now all of a sudden, I see those same people that were criticizing the pick when it happened all the way up until the point of this game say that, oh, well, clearly Zach Charbonnet should be the starter. Clearly he's a better fit for this offensive line. Clearly he is a better fit for the style of running game they want to play. To those people, I want to say, slow your roll. My goodness, yes, I love Zach Charbonnet. And in my opinion, K9 is not as good as the fans have made him out to be since he's been here. He does amazing things. But I'm not going to just give up on him either. It's not like, oh, well, clearly after one game, Zach Charbonnet is the best running back in the NFL and he needs to be the starter going forward. No. I believe I talked about it earlier this season. I'd like to see, one, a more balanced offense where we get, a more even game of rushing and passing. And by the way, that's what this game was. Geno Smith had a quote-unquote rush, a quote-unquote carry that he ran for 0 yards. If you take that one out, though, people who actually lined up at running back and ran the ball, we had 30 rushing attempts, whereas Geno had 30 passing attempts. Perfectly balanced. And when K9 comes back, I would like to see, it doesn't have to be a perfect balance, but I would like to see a more balanced share of rushing attempts between K9 and Zach Charbonnet. Why? Because Zach Charbonnet, he is the reliable one who is going to take what's there and can give you what's there. K9, he still does have that just breakaway speed and, you know, athletic ability that most people don't have, that can give you something special every once in a while. So you still have to rush him in there. Okay, you still have to give him you know, even more carries than what Kenny McIntosh got there. You know, even if you said, okay, Zach Charbonnet, he is, you know, our quote-unquote definitive starter, you know, I'm still giving him somewhere around 20 carries, but I'm making sure that K9 is still getting around 10 touches or more as well. Even if that means you take a couple more carries away, if say you gave just like 18 or 19 carries to Charbonnet, then you're giving, you know, 10, 11, 12 to K9. Because again, he does have something that Charbonnet doesn't have. Again, that is that breakaway speed. Now, Charbonnet, he had that great 51-yard rushing touchdown. Because there was great blocking in front of him, and he read it perfectly. He took it, and he ran. Now, on that same play, if you had K9 in there, and he read the blocks and took what was there in front of him and ran the same way, he would have done the same thing. The only difference would have been there wouldn't have been somebody catching up to him at the end. Zach Charbonnet ran that for a 51-yard touchdown. If that would have been from our own 20 and who's going for 80 yards, I don't think he would have made it to the touchdown, because he clearly would have been caught by a couple of DBs from Arizona. You get K9 in there, he could rush that from our own 1-yard line, and he'd still be separating from a Cardinals player all the way to the touchdown zone. That's how fast he is. That's why you don't just say, oh, okay, well, we can move on from K9. There's going to be no moving on here. It just needs to be balance, like there was in this game. And again, you know, I don't know how they're going to decide to do it, because I don't know how long it is exactly before K9 actually comes back. But I would like to see that balance, because I want to see Charbonnet get more carries, and I'd like to see these guys both be fresh for the playoffs, helping each other keep each other fresh, because we don't want to like wear either of them down totally before the playoffs. All right, that's what I have to say about rushing. Let's talk about receiving. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Again, he is becoming one of the premier receivers in the league. I know he's top 5 in receiving now on the year. This game, 5 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. You know, he caught all 5 of his targets. He was getting clear separation. He had that fingertip catch where he kept the ball off the ground, you know, just like millimeters from hitting the ground, but he kept it off the ground. That takes some real strength in your hands and fingers to be able to do that. It was amazing to see, and it was amazing to see him catch balls and go for yards after. We already talked about Zach Charbonnet and his 7 receptions. DK Metcalf had 4 for 49. Again, still being one of those elite receivers in the game. All right, JSN and DK, they are helping each other out, and they are going to be, you know, as long as JSN continues to develop here and is becoming what we always expected he would be coming out of college, then they will become one of the premier duos in the league. The way in the past few years we have talked about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the way we've talked about Jamar Chase and Ty Higgins. JSN and DK will be talked about that way, as long as JSN continues to play the way he does. So I want to see this keep going. I want to see them together for years to come. Noah Fant had 3 for 18. AJ Barner had a reception for 13 yards where, again, he just totally trucked somebody. That was great to see. Tyler Lockett, man, no receptions this game. It only had the 1 target. Again, we're seeing a lot of formations where he's not even on the field. I love Tyler Lockett. Again, I've mentioned this before, but we all know how much throughout the year Mike Salk has talked about wanting to trade DK Metcalf because of the contract and the position. Well, like I said, you got to keep DK and JSN together for years to come. And I think that means eventually Tyler Lockett at the end of this season, I don't know if we can bring him back next year because he's making just as much as DK. And, the age and the performance, you got to keep your other stars together. So I think he's going to be a casualty of the cap next year. But I think he still has a lot left in the tank to give us this year. But you can clearly see that they are starting to move away from him. For what he has for this year, and for the direction this team is going, he still has a lot to give that could help us out on a run this year. All right, and then we haven't talked about Geno yet, so we got to talk about the quarterback, right? So our quarterback, Geno Smith, 24 completions on 30 attempts for 233 yards, a touchdown, and 110 quarterback rating. Great. Loved it. I think this is one of Geno's best games all year. Again, didn't have the number of touchdowns, didn't have the number of yards, but it was very efficient. 80% completions. Was taking what was in front of him. He would throw it to the check down if that what was there. He wasn't forcing anything down the field. It seems like, I mean, we know that Geno Smith has thrown a lot of interceptions this year, right? And it seems, he's got 12 interceptions, and it seems as though every game there's at least a couple throws where you get nervous and you are worried that about the throw being put in harm's way. I didn't see that once in this game. And with the way this defense is playing right now, that's what you want to see, because the defense is dominating. And if the running game can continue the way it did in this game, then that's exactly what you want to see out of Geno. He does not have to be the hero, and he shouldn't feel like he has to be the hero either, because there's a lot of talent around him. And if the offensive line can continue to block the way they have over the last couple of games, maybe Geno will get more comfortable back there in the pocket and continue to make good decisions as he did in this game. And then again, this team will be very dangerous if we're having a quarterback play like that. Because, yeah, this game, again, it didn't end up with a lot of yards, but again, with somebody like a JSN, a DK Metcalf, and if you're putting the ball in good spots for them and giving them chances without throwing it, in and putting them in a dangerous situation, then these receivers, they will. A JSN will. A DK Metcalf especially will. break one off and go for big yards and add to that total, right? So keep playing the way you did in this game, and yeah, this team is going to be dangerous. Okay, I mentioned the defense. Let's talk about that as well. Tyrese Knight, 12 tackles in this game, 2 pass deflections. My goodness. Okay, like I said, this was one of those draft picks that had me scratching my head, but I said, okay, the way Pete Carroll was a defensive back specialist, Mike McDonald is a linebacker specialist. So we're going to find out, can he really do it? Here in Seattle, we've seen him do it in other places, but is it going to translate here? Is he going to be able to develop linebackers here? And Tyrese Knight, my goodness, over these past few games that he's been the starter, it is also an improvement over what we had in the past. But we are really seeing it, especially in this game. This is the type of play we have not seen in years in Seattle. Okay? Same thing with Ernest Jones. These two coming in and becoming the starters mid-season, we have not seen play like this at the linebacker level in years in Seattle. Yes, I am including recent years with Bobby Wagner in there. Bobby Wagner, he's still getting a ton of tackles. He's still a serviceable linebacker. But when you can get a Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones that are so much younger and have so much more speed and can still cover, again, Tyrese Knight had 2 pass deflections. Ernest Jones had a pass deflection, had an interception as well. Yes, this is what you want to see at that level. And yeah, they dominated. Tyrese Knight, 12 tackles. Ernest Jones, 8 tackles. It was great to see. Rick Woolen in this game had 8 tackles. Julian Love had 7. Witherspoon had 7. Leonard Williams 7. Had a tackle for loss. He also had a pass deflected. Kobe Bryant in this game, still just showing that, yes, he is a safety and he is a starting safety in this league. Comes up with another interception in this game. There was one, flub from the defense in this game on the opening drive to the Arizona Cardinals, in which we let them score a touchdown. And Mike McDonald clearly stated it after the game that that was not a good drive from him, the coach, that he that he made the wrong reads and he called the wrong he called the wrong plays on that first drive, and he put his players in bad positions. So gotta love and respect a coach who goes out there and says and admits it when, hey, that was on me. Because somebody like the Pro Football Focus website, they never know what the play call is. They don't really know what they're doing, right? But they're going to give grades anyway. And they're going to put it on a player and be like, oh, well, this player was in the area, so it's their fault, so we're going to give them a bad grade. But, somebody like Mike McDonald can go out there and say, well, actually, that's my bad. I put them in a bad position. They were, for the play that was called against us, I had my player totally out of position, and that's why they beat us. Got to respect a coach who can admit that. Okay, and then just continuing to talk about the defensive performance here, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals and just what they did in this game. Okay, because if I tell you this, a team that was scoring over other opponents, not including you, scoring over 24 points a game, And then in the 2 games they played against you, they averaged 12 points. You held them to less than half of what they were averaging against other teams. The yards per game they're averaging, over 350. I guess you gave up about that much, but you also took the ball away twice. I believe Kyler Murray had only thrown 2 interceptions in a single game one other time this year. You get 2 interceptions off of him. You held him to 259 yards. Once again, held him to 3 carries for 16 yards, so you didn't allow him to go off on you. In this game, James Conner did have 18 carries for 90 yards. But again, to me, that is still impressive. Given the fact that I think James Conner this year has proven that he's one of the, he's been one of the top running backs this year. You held him to under 100 yards again, and even though he got way more yards, he got like 3 times the amount of attempts that he did in this game than last game, and there was still at no point where did you feel like he was taking over the game or dominating the game like he has against other teams. We still struggled against the tight end. Trey McBride still had 7 receptions and 70 yards in this game. But he is, I had a friend ask me last year if I felt like Trey McBride was an elite tight end in the league. And I said no. But based off of what he's done over the last couple of seasons now, including this season, I think you have to start saying Trey McBride is near that elite level tight end in this league now. If he's not, he's right on the edge. I think but you probably lean towards putting him in the elite level. So, at least you did better than last time, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. had 4 receptions for 49 yards. So you're able to contain him. Again, I think he's still somebody that is just going to break out and be an all-star in this league. So you're going to have to see him for years to come. But with the defensive backfield that you have, I think you're proving that you're going to have a lot of good battles in the future. But yeah, I mean, in general, you held Arizona to under their average yards, under their average points, you held them under everything. And so to me, that was still a dominant performance from the defense. Yeah, they scored literally 3 times as much points as they did last time. They ended up with 18, and they had a couple touchdowns in this game versus just a couple field goals. But in today's NFL, I think you'd consider that a dominant performance. All right, so there you go. There's that game. The Seahawks, they are just on fire right now. We saw Uchenna Nwosu in this game, not much. So, looks like they're going to slow roll him and make sure he's healthy going into the end of the season, going into the playoffs. So I think that's a great idea. If you win this division and you're getting a home game in the playoffs, you want to be as healthy as you can. And right now we're getting lucky in the way that all the injuries that we've had this season, they've happened at the beginning or the middle of the season, and everybody's starting to get healthy now. And with all the changes that we've made at linebacker and offensive line, the team's looking a lot better in those areas. and you could be really well set up for the playoffs if everybody's coming back healthy here at the end and just the right timing. Now, our next game is on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. That is going to be a fun game, and that very well could be the matchup for the first playoff game for the Seahawks this year. A home game versus the Packers. Nothing is set in stone yet, but with the way things are playing out, that looks like the most likely scenario if the Seattle Seahawks were to win this division. Because the Packers are still behind the Vikings, so they would be the wild card. And they would be coming to Seattle's house for the first playoff game. So we can look at this Sunday as like this is a playoff caliber game, and this will give us an idea of how ready the Seahawks are right now for it. Again, there's still 4 games left in this season, so there's still a lot that the Seahawks can do between now and the playoffs starting to really, improve and just really be ready for the playoffs. But this will be a good preview of how we're going to feel in this moment about this team's chance in the playoffs, and what they either need to improve on or what they just need to stay on par with, or what level they need to continue to play at to make sure that they can actually go on a run in the playoffs this year. All right, so yeah, there you go. There's my thoughts on this game and our upcoming game. Let me know what you thought about this win over the Cardinals, and let me know what you think of our chances at home versus the Packers in a primetime game. I know the home games haven't been what they have been for us in the past this year, but this team throughout the year has made a lot of developments, and this home game is not going to be like the rest of the home games because this is a completely different team. All right, so there you go. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you subscribe to the channel. Comment, share it with your friends so we can help this show grow. And thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken. So take cover, because with this sea of sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.